Hey guys, we are here today with Community Talk Findlay Show. We're at the fire station. We get to sit with these amazing gentlemen. Things that we don't always think about, we're going to make sure that everyone thinks about them today. We have John Clark, he is the fire marshal here, and we have Kalvin Norman, and he is a fireman. Thank you guys for joining the show today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Thanks.
We've been talking a little bit about, the safety things that need to be talked about and sometimes get forgotten. Today we're going to give everybody a few tools.
We are. We're going to talk about summer safety because we're coming into the summer season.
Yeah.
And we're going to share this between Kalvin and I. Basically, we're going to talk a little bit about the hot topics for the summer. What's coming right around the corner is the 4th of July, right? So we'll talk about fireworks safety. Then we're going to talk about swimming safety and what's the other big desert thing?
Heat.
Heat.
That's right. Yep.
So we're going to talk about heat. And then we'll talk about campfires and just give you some tips on lodging. People travel in the summer, and we hope you have an escape plan for your house. But we wanted to have we have lodging places and Airbnb, so you want folks to know how to get out of them, right?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Not even something I think about, right? You go on vacation, you're having a good time, you're getting everybody set up. You never think about what happens, how do I educate my children right now, what we do if we're in different rooms and something happens.
Right. And it's super easy to just come up with an easy plan, something that you can talk with your family, with your kids. You can even look up online. There's multiple different internet websites that you can look up. Obviously, we're going to have some tips here for you as well. But this will give you some tips to help you maybe create that plan and keep you safe at least this
prepared,
summer. So,
huh?
Yes, that is correct.
What do we got first, John?
So the information that we have is it's not hard to find. NFPA, National Fire Protection Association, SafeKids.org, and National Weather Service. They all have a lot of information on these topics. So if you want more information on what we give you today, all of them, the Weather Service talks about heat, and they have some segments on water safety. The Safe Kids talks about swimming safety and water safety. And then the rest of what we're talking about today is if you go to nfpa.org on the web, it'll give you a lot of tips. And it's a public site all year.
Yeah.
Good to know. Good to know.
Fireworks.
It's coming, right?
Coming, July 4th.
Yeah, it's coming fast.
Yeah.
And it's, everybody likes fireworks. They're beautiful, right? Mm-hmm. But they're very dangerous. More than 19,000 fires a year, probably 20 by this year, 20,000 fires across the United States annually from fireworks.
Yep.
More devastating than that are injuries.
Yes.
9,000 fireworks-related injuries, with the majority of them occurring in the month around 4th of July.
Yes.
Well, we get excited, right? We get excited. If you have a few drinks, you feel invincible because you've done it 100 times.
Right, exactly. You let that guard down, and it just takes that one single time for something to happen. So.
About a third of the injuries from fireworks are ages 10 to 14. I think the key takeaway, their website, they made a very pungent point was adults aren't immune to it. And the adult beverage thing comes in there with the adults. Sometimes we're not thinking clearly. So just like firearms, if you're drinking, you shouldn't be playing with fireworks.
That's right.
I like it, especially when you have your children involved, right?
Correct.
Absolutely.
About 25% or a quarter of the burns that are seen in emergency rooms every year are from sparklers.
Really?
Yeah, and that was even shocking to me in that, as a kid I grew up with sparklers. I gave my kids sparklers because we
feel
deem
safe,
them
right?
Relatively safe, right. The truth of it is you wouldn't give your child a pot of boiling water, right, 212 degrees.
No.
A cardboard box burns at 800 degrees. You want to guess, Christine, what the tip of the fireworks is or the sparkler is?
I'm going to say more than both of those that I'm giving my child, thinking it's fun.
Take a stab at it.
1,800.
You were close, 1,200.
I was going to say,
Wow.
very
So
close.
that's significant. It just takes a second to burn.
Yep.
Yeah.
The other thing is when the sparkler goes out, it continues to stay warm.
So throwing it in trash cans, things like that, dousing it in water is very important, at least to put it out, or put it somewhere not in a trash can or near anything that can catch, even when it's out.
One of the best, and you hit the nail right on the head. One of the best things if you're going to do fireworks is to have a bucket of water, a 5-gallon bucket of water. When your kids get done with the sparklers and it wears out, have them just drop it in there. Same thing goes for if you're lighting a firecracker, you're lighting fireworks. If it doesn't light, throw it in the bucket of water.
Yes.
Because you never know if it could.
If it's on the ground and it doesn't light, leave it alone. don't pick it up and put it in the bucket. But we recommend 24 hours before you pick it back up. But basically,
Wow.
you should have a bucket of water, and if it doesn't work right, throw it in the bucket of water. And then deal with
Great
it.
idea.
Yeah.
Great idea. Be prepared, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, our best advice is go see a professional show. We
Yeah.
understand not everyone wants to do that. Most shows are free.
Yeah.
Bullhead City and Laughlin have shows. The Abbey has actually at least 3 shows a year. I know from when I worked for Mojave Valley, that was our fire district. We covered those fireworks, and they have
It's
one
an
at least-
amazing show
They have
as
an
well.
amazing
Yeah,
show. They
it
have one
really
at
is.
least on Memorial Day. They will have one on 4th of July and another one on Labor Day and that
Yeah.
weekend. So, and it's free.
Yep.
You can pick a place and go watch it. I think it's $10 or something for the parking, but it's awesome parking. That event center across the street, they shoot them off in the
Yeah,
river.
right,
It's
that's
very
right.
safe, and you're
You can really go down any dirt
Yeah,
road and enjoy it
right.
too. Like you don't even have to pay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
can be safe.
Yep,
Park
exactly,
in the parking lot, take
exactly.
your car, take your kids, and pack your lunch, and
Right.
that's what we like. As an alternative, there's a lot of cool things you can do. We want to be patriotic these days. Everybody wants to be in the spirit, especially on 4th of July. Glow sticks are a great thing.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
they're not real expensive. Dollar store. What's the one out that you order everything from? I don't know.
Amazon.
Amazon.
Yeah, anything online.
You
yeah.
get anything at
Anywhere
Amazon.
No, I can't remember the name of it now. But you get this stuff like 100 of them for $10.
Right, yeah. they're
And
pretty
you can
cheap.
get red, white, blue, or whatever. So glow sticks are good because there's no ignition to them.
Yeah.
Non-firework noisemakers, legally they can sell in Walmart or the dollar store or any general store can sell little poppers where you pull it out, it pops, and it shoots a little string
Yeah,
out.
those are fun. Not in the house,
And,
but
horns and things like that for noisemakers. They make red, white, and blue. I think I've seen it in a couple stores, red, white, blue silly string. Not
Yeah.
sure I would allow that in my house.
yeah. But out in the desert, go for
It is
it.
non-toxic and it's not supposed to stick to things.
True.
So that's another good one. Outdoor movies with a patriotic theme. You used to have a big thing to set up anymore with your iPhone and a sheet on the wall. You can cast to another
That's a
device.
great
and do it.
idea.
So, Independence Day or whatever type of movies you want to watch. 4th of July.
That's a good movie, yeah, for
There's
that.
lots of good movies out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
If you do choose to use fireworks, know the laws and regulations.
Yes.
We're not going to try to recite those here because the state of Arizona has a set of statutes that speaks to it, but then jurisdictions also have the ability to govern those
Yeah.
certain things.
So it really
Specific-
depends on where you
Correct.
are.
Right, yeah, ordinances against
Which the
specific
RV
laws.
has a place that you can go and safely.
Correct. So, the Avi
Yeah.
is a tribal.
Yes.
They're covered in tribal law, so their law is different.
Yeah. So if you think you might want to, it's a great place to kind of go where
Correct.
I'm sure it's
Yeah.
it's monitored a bit and.
Yep.
Yep. Absolutely.
So they just know where you're going. And if you're going visiting, you're going to, we'd like to go back to Michigan for the summer for a couple of weekends to go to the lakes. Their laws are different than ours. So, and it's a little strange. In a lot of places you can buy fireworks legally, big fireworks. You can't shoot them off. Never really figured that out.
Right. Yeah, no, that's-
Why they sell them where you can't shoot them off is an
Unless you
interesting
can't
Well,
thing.
that's
shoot
Ohio, is
Right.
that's one of the- Arizona, you can buy certain fireworks that you can't actually fire off. So,
Yeah, like aerials.
but it's
So know the laws.
Yeah, know what the laws
Yeah.
are, so you
Yes.
get yourself in trouble.
Yep.
Don't use them during the burn ban. It's interesting in that most burn bans, because of the laws around fireworks, some of them are state laws, the burn ban doesn't tell you can't have the fireworks. As a fire marshal, I had that argument before. People are like, what do you mean I can't have a campfire in the backyard, but the idiot next door is firing off fireworks? You can't override certain legislation. So
Right. Yeah.
just be smart. If there's a burn ban, you shouldn't be firing off fireworks either.
Yeah.
Right.
Even in your
Yep.
yard.
Yeah.
Common sense.
Yeah, common
right?
sense, exactly.
Always
Yeah.
have adult supervision, maybe without adult beverages.
A sober adult is a great idea.
Yeah, at least one.
In dry areas and stay in dry areas and stay away from crowds and buildings.
Yeah.
Big fireworks have crowds, but that's why they have lines to keep them a certain distance.
Distance. Right.
Backyard parties, there's a number of those injuries, a large number that come from not the person igniting the fireworks, but somebody where the bottle rocket fell over and there were 10 kids playing over here or adults
Yep.
and hit one of them. So
Or a misfire or something
Misfire,
where it just
exactly.
doesn't go out and everybody's standing right there and it just. So.
correct.
Well, and the truth is, funny when you're doing it, but not funny when the accident happens.
Exactly.
It's not.
Right.
So we want you to be safe. We'd love to see you on 4th of July, but not in the back of our ambulance.
Yeah, that's right.
Amen. So water safety, that's a big one. We are in that time for sure.
So, water safety this for the summer, obviously, a lot more people are going to be coming out, going down to the lake, going into your pools. Just be smart when kids are going out. Make sure that they have the proper life jackets that they're wearing, especially on boating. Mostly, it's important to at least have one adult nearby to be watching, and that at least be a sober adult as well. And designate a water watcher, and avoid distractions while your kid is around the water. So whether you're sitting on your phone, whether you're doing yard work, this is all obviously all around the pool. But if you go out down to the river, make sure that you're around your kid, or at least nearby them, or having someone watch them.
It's hard because it's even like a fast moment of a conversation.
Yes.
And you look back and your child's like, fighting for their life, and it's literally seconds.
Well, and there's times where people will think that kids are just playing too, and they'll take a quick second. They'll be like, "Oh yeah, they're totally fine," and next thing you know, where do they go? So, and it can happen. I mean,
It can happen to
anybody and anywhere. I mean, even in small amounts of water, children can drown. I'm not exactly sure what the exact inch amount of water is, but kids can even drown in small amounts of water, up to 2 inches or something.
Yeah, well, I know I can remember when I was young, the bathtub was a huge thing.
Yeah.
Because, you kind of put them in and you do your hair or whatever, and next thing you know, so it's really every time you're around any kind of water.
Right. Well, and teaching, even starting early with young kids, starting the earliest that you can, the better. I know I put my kids through when they were 1 to 2, start them in swimming classes, bring them down there. And it's not teaching them to swim, but at least to roll over onto their back.
Yeah.
Teach them to keep their mouth closed while they're underwater. So getting them accustomed and comfortable with water. That way, that if something does happen, it at least gives you a little bit or initial time to do something. Yeah, at least they're not completely helpless. So.
Yeah.
And it honestly, again, it can happen to anyone, especially out with the river. That's one of the big things is we have swift water out here. So.
When we watch it even happen to adults out here on the water.
We do. Yes, we do.
Yep.
To happen to anybody as a young firefighter, I was probably first couple of years of my career, young, married, with kids, and we had, fortunate in the Midwest, the 2 months of warm summer we had a swimming pool, and we had a pool party that moved in, and they were mostly fire personnel and some cops and that whole group of people, so responsible adults. Yeah. Very little drinking going on, but we had probably, it was a 16 by 32 in-ground pool with a slide, 3-foot shallow end and an 8-foot deep end, and we had probably 10 families there. And there was somebody that walked into the party in the end, and there was actually a child that had went underwater. There was 10 of us in the pool at the time, and this child was underwater. Had came off the slide, didn't know how to swim.
Oh,
right.
And so it just that was quite the
like a dose of reality.
Yeah, dose of reality.
Yeah.
People do it every day, and you realize, geez, we're right here watching our kids. We're really watching the kids we were talking and interacting, and then this kid went off the slide, and luckily somebody was walking in the gate to the pool.
I was like, look at that
saw the kid because we were oblivious to it.
Right.
Well, and I'm sure in many aspects of what you guys do, cell phones are our biggest enemy when it comes to being around our children,
Absolutely.
and making sure that they're safe. It's the easy distraction, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And an important distinction too, I know we were talking a lot about pools, that's locally, but again, back to the river, the dynamic between those two is very different because of that swift water. So having, you have currents, depth, visibility, you can't see down to a certain depth, it can carry people away. Even with life jackets on, things can happen. And so
we see that a lot with jet skis, huh?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, and we're, even though we are talking specifically about summer right now, the water do get cold, especially during the winter time, and even going into the water, it can send you into shock instantly, and that can bring you under as well.
What's the river here typically? It doesn't get much more than 60, some degrees.
Right. Because we're so close to the dam, all of the water's coming out of the bottom, most of it is cold anyway. The further that you get down, it does get warmer, but I know specifically, summertime, but even now, it can still be cold. You go down 10, 12 feet, it gets cold, so.
Well, and again, if you're not used to that undertow and realize what that can do and how fast that can happen,
Right.
It will get you. It doesn't matter what age you are.
And just making sure that you have the proper equipment as well. Go and make sure if you have a life jacket that is splitting or ripping or it's old or it's sun damaged or something like that, go to the store, buy something, that at least something that will work. It has to be Coast Guard approved. It will have it on there. Most of them are Coast Guard approved. Make sure it's not expired if you're buying it from somebody else. Just check it, make sure. It's super easy. It takes 30 seconds to look over something and make sure that it's working correctly, but a lifetime of regret if it's not. So
Yeah.
And there's a lot of agencies. We're past point down Bullhead, and the Coast Guard just did one where they exchanged life jackets that you had outgrown or
Seen that, yeah.
wrong size is free. But what I will tell you, if you have a need to have a life jacket for your child, if you go to your local fire department, your local police department, we'll try to find you resources to get that jacket for you.
That's good to
You don't want
know.
kids going out there without a life jacket.
yeah.
Well, and like you said, both said, from each swim year, as they grow, they need a different size. So
Correct.
you need to make sure
That
that
is
your
true.
child, literally we'll all go grab spend $5 on coffee. That's nothing to spend $40 on a life jacket that's going to save their life.
Right,
The thing about
exactly.
life jackets are, it's not like car seats. Car seats typically designed to, if you're ever in an accident, you can never use it again. Typically, you don't hand your car seats down just because it's a safety issue in the house being
Right.
maintained. Life jackets aren't like that. As long as they're pliable and in good condition, if your neighbors have kids that are younger than yours, you can go down and go up with them.
Yeah.
They're not a bad second-hand item. You can inspect them and look at them. So
That's good.
there's some advantages for low cost. But if you have one before you throw it out, think about donating or giving it to your neighbor or friend.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do we got next, guys?
We're talking about campfire safety. Everybody likes a campfire, right?
Yep.
They come in and burn bands.
S'mores.
Right? S'mores. But even during burn bans, typically the smaller campfires, what they call a warming fire or a cooking fire, which each jurisdiction may do it differently, but typically it's about a 3 foot by 3 foot fire with 3 foot wide, 3 foot long, and a flame no higher than 3 feet, and it's natural firewood. Typically, during burn bans, unless they get the strictest, they'll allow you to continue to do that. But just like fireworks, thousands of people are killed or injured every year.
Yes.
Again, part of it is the bad alcohol factor. Somebody trips and falls in it. Kids
Yeah.
are suffer that too. You're having a good time at the fire, and the kids are running around. They trip over somebody's foot. They trip over a rock, and the next thing you know, they're in the fire.
Again,
so,
it makes your night really bad,
yeah,
if you're not
Or
paying
even
adults be
attention.
responsible and watch your children.
Yeah, I was gonna say even objects sticking out of the fire, because sometimes I've had it where people have objects, a shovel or a hot, something hot iron sticking into the coals to move the coals
Fire
around or
iron.
something,
Yeah.
and the kid doesn't
Yeah.
know. They walk up, they grab a hold of it, and now they have a burn on their hand.
Yeah.
So
Then the biggie, just like fireworks, make sure that you can have a permitted fire. Most places require some type of burn permit if it's going to be bigger than that 3 by 3.
Gotcha.
We have requirements 3 by 3 cooking fire, warming fire. It's kind of no harm, no foul. It's a burning ban. Otherwise than that, you have to get a permit. There's no cost for it in most jurisdictions. Sometimes there's a nominal fee, but that way we're not getting fire calls for stuff that we don't need to.
I was gonna say, what's the normal process? So like if somebody wanted to go out and do that,
So for here, they would come in, the normal 3 by 3 fire they can have, they call it a warming fire, cooking fire. If the winds, we'll talk about the wind in a minute, that's a whole other subject, but that smaller cooking or campfire, in most jurisdictions, ours included, no permit required. If you're gonna burn something big, you're gonna burn some brush, you wanna have a bigger fire, there's nothing wrong with doing that. Maybe have some more friends over, like a bonfire type thing, you have to get a permit for that.
Yeah.
And there are requirements, the permits are free, you can come in here and get them, and the permits are free, and it goes by where you're located at. There are certain areas you can have different fires than other areas, depending on which acreages and things like that.
Yeah. Well, we definitely don't want you have to be called out for a fire that could have been prevented, or have the permit and the rules and waste your guys' time.
Yeah.
We do not want to do that.
In worst case scenario, if you have a fire that gets out of hand, we had one recently. There are some areas, again, in agricultural residential lots.
Yeah,
even
which a
our
lot of us
jurisdiction,
have.
A lot of us have,
Yes.
that people can burn. You can't burn trash, but you can burn like cardboard. You can burn discarded lumber that's not treated, things like that. We had a fire recently in the north end of jurisdiction where they had kind of done the right things. They had a large burn pit, probably 10 feet by 15 feet in diameter and probably 6 or 7 feet deep. And they were getting food from the food bank for their animals. So when the food went bad, they would give it to their animals. They were trying to kind of live off the grid and for a good reason.
Yeah.
And so they would burn those boxes, and they always burn them early in the morning before it got hot, and when there was no wind and stuff. Well, they did it that morning, and it was about 3:30 in the morning when they got up, because you feed your animals early, right?
Yeah.
And so they had fed the chickens and animals and lit this fire. Well, the wind kicked up all of a sudden, picked one of those boxes up, and ended up in a very large fire. Luckily, it didn't burn the residents down, but they lost some farm animals, and they lost some other stuff around the farm.
Well, and I think what we're going to find as we listen to you guys talk is that you have to be aware of your surroundings. You have to know
Yes.
and be prepared that we know the wind does kick up that fast. A child does walk into a pool that fast.
Correct.
A fire does happen that fast. So
That
stop
sense of
and
awareness.
think.
Yeah, the sense of awareness, just having that extra level of care, that awareness of like, just a few more seconds, just, spend a little bit more time thinking about it.
Like, what's the plan if?
Exactly.
And big tips.
Yep.
You hit on it earlier. If it's windy, where's that wind again? In permitted fires, typically there's a on the permit. I'll tell you what it is. Generally, it's between 7 and 9 degrees, or 7 and 9 miles an hour. Once it gets above that, you're not supposed to burn. In the desert, it's always 7 to 9 miles an hour. Within reason, on windy days, you don't want to burn. Obviously, just like water, you don't leave the kids unattended into the fire. Don't leave the fire unattended.
Don't leave the fire unattended.
Yes.
That's a good one.
Yes.
Because I sometimes you're having a good time and you
walk away
and
just for a
go to
minute.
bed and
Or
Exactly.
a lot of people camping will be, you got kids and you're camping. I've seen this happen a lot, and the adults, it's time for the kids, they're crashed, they're ready to go to bed, and so the adults will leave and put the kids in bed, and they're just leaving that going. It's probably a campfire, it's probably not such a big deal, but it happens outdoors too, and then they're in the house for what they think is going to be 3 or 4 minutes with a child, and they're in there 10,
Half hour,
15,
yeah.
and maybe bring something out to eat, and they get a problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
The other thing is, so if you're going to have a campfire, how do you start that campfire, Christy?
Well, I would like to say safely, but probably with some lighter fluid and throw some matches on there if you want to know the truth.
So big temptation. I mean, if we're following the rules and really trying to be safe, we shouldn't use any lighter fluid. Certainly no gasoline.
I suppose if you don't know how to light a fire appropriately, you should not be lighting a fire.
Save it for the guys to do it.
I
Of
will
course.
say you're not going to talk about that doing it. In reality, lighter fluid is not recommended, but it's safer too. Gasoline explodes.
No.
Yes.
You'll throw it on there, and it's instantaneous combustion, and you'll usually get some kind of explosion with it. So
And we've seen all the videos of people dumping the gas.
Right,
on
when you're
it,
out
and then-
riding
and then
bikes,
it's-
right?
Yes, and then
And-
they pull it back and it sprays it everywhere. So
Oh, yeah.
let's just try to stay.
Or the trail that follows you.
Yes,
Right.
exactly. Yeah, no, you have everything else on fire. So.
So your truck or lighter fluid, that's a big danger with that, especially the plastic ones. The metal actually used to be better because the metal wouldn't burn. But there's, like everything else on YouTube videos and safety videos of people with the plastic, like the rectangular plastic lighter jugs, and they squeeze it. Well, what happens when you let it go?
Yes.
It sucks it back up, right?
Right.
Oh,
so if you get too close, it catches that string on fire. When you let it go,
Comes
it
back
puts
to
that
you.
fire back in the bottle and melt the plastic bottle. The can, at least you can.
It's going to stop at some point, right?
But
Yeah, never thought about that.
Use kindling. They even sell. They have fake fire where they sell at all the sorts
I
of stuff.
love the fake fire
they
one.
have
You
the
just
little-
light the little paper on fire.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But they even
Exactly.
have, if you want to get to a campfire, they even have little chunks of that, and they're about the size of a doorstop, and they light very, very easy. You can put 3 or 4 of those under there and put your lighter to them. Long lighter's nice to use, and there's no flammables in it. There's some combustibles in it.
Yeah.
But that's what it's made
It's
for.
not
It doesn't
coming back
explode,
at
it
ya.
doesn't come back at you.
I was say we're not asking you to go back to ancient times and bow and exactly. So
Have you ever
there's
seen
just
the trouble
better
they have
ways.
on Survivor with
I was
that?
gonna say,
But it's great. It's great things to really think about, safety first.
Yes.
If you're going to do the bonfire, make sure that you have the permit. Make sure you're aware of what is okay and what isn't. And make sure that you have the fire starter, correct tools and utensils.
So you mentioned s'mores earlier.
I love that.
S'mores is a great thing. Although sticks are dirty, and is the metal. Why? Because the metal gets hot all the way out.
Yeah.
Just like pie irons, you have hands on a little bit different. But you said something about the child grabbing something sticking out. Very normal reaction, especially if they're excited.
Right.
Pie iron marshmallows are really bad because not only is the stick hot, typically I'd say 80% of people use just a metal ring stick. One, because they're cheap, and two,
you get them anywhere.
they're easy. But that metal gets hot all the way, and then when you pull that out, if you want your marshmallow burnt, that's fine. But my tip always is have your cream cracker and your chocolate ready, and pull it out and put it between it. And pull it out.
Streamlining it. Yeah, there you go.
But you're right. I mean, a parent usually kind of takes that, but we think nothing about actually giving that s'more and then walking away from that metal stick.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
think about it.
The 4-year-old that wants that marshmallow is not probably not going to wait for you to pull it out.
No, probably not. Yeah, you're right.
And the last tip, I think on campfire safety or any kind of fire that you're going to do, is the preferred is you have a water source there. So we have these permitted burns. They have to have some kind of water tank, or they have to have a garden hose available or something. If you've got a garden hose in your backyard, just have the hose on it so you can use it. Or have a 5-gallon bucket of water. If you're only doing a 3x3 fire pit, you got a 5-gallon bucket of water. That's gonna. It's not gonna put it out completely. It's not gonna spread with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then a shovel is another good idea. If you just shovel dirt in the desert, sand on the beach, that's a great thing. A shovel of sand will do a lot of good.
It's good to know.
Again, be smart. Pay attention to what you're doing, and don't leave it unattended.
Don't leave it unattended. It's like a child, right? What else do we got? I feel like extreme heat. Probably that's our next, huh?
Yes.
I mean, we live in extreme heat. Takes 2 seconds out there.
And you'd think, that, living here, you'd be well aware of that. But coming into the early summer months, because we have here mostly just hot or cold. We have summer or winter. But as we start coming closer to like April and May months, we actually see a lot more heat-related illnesses, exposures, people being sent to the hospital for that reason, simply because they think it's not as hot as it actually is. That they go out at 10 o'clock where they normally would be going out at the same time, whereas now the sun's out sooner. It's a lot hotter at that time, and they're outside working, gardening, whatever that they're doing in the morning, most of our elderly population, and then they go back inside and have some type of heat-related illness, whether that be heat exhaustion, and it can go all the way up to heat stroke. So it's actually more people die from extreme heat exposure every year than tornadoes, lightning, floods, and earthquakes combined. So
Really?
all together, yes. Heat-related
Take
illnesses
advantage that we know what we're doing, but honestly, our bodies are
If
going
you
to tell
look
us
at
different.
if you look at this, it's not up right now on the board, but we have the CAD system which covers all the River Valley here. You can see all the fire departments are doing, where the dispatches go out. Starting probably about May until probably September, you'll see a half a dozen to a dozen heat-related calls every day on that board.
Things we could avoid to not take up your guys' time.
Right.
Simply by maybe less time out there pulling weeds, being really aware of kind of what you're intaking as far as hydration.
Yes, hydration, I was going to say, is one of the biggest things. A lot of our patients that we ask, how much water are you drinking? They say, usually just a cup a day, and that's just not even close to enough. Or they say up to 8 cups a day or a gallon for normal areas. Where here, because we're so dry, and that's talking specifically about non-summer months. So it's even more so than that during the summer months. I mean, it just sucks the moisture right out of you. So what you thought you could do previously, just be a little bit more aware and more cognizant. Drink a little bit more water. Stay out of the heat as much as you can. Put on, that clothing, hats, things like that. So
the self-regulation, your best self-judgment of water intake in the summer.
What?
Is when you go to the bathroom, the color of your urine.
If it's yellow, you need more water.
That's correct.
It should be the same color that bottled water there.
Yeah.
If it's really dark yellow, you need to go get in the air conditioning and have some drinks. But and you can't wait till you're thirsty because you'll never catch up here.
Yeah.
No.
So stay hydrated.
Especially if you're out there, huh?
Right. Well, I know we kind of talked a little bit mostly about like the elderly population, but somebody demographic that's also more affected as well is children, especially under the age of 4. It's difficult for them to regulate their temperature. They're also young; they can't really take care of
They'll play
themselves.
until they can't play anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So those are the two biggest demographics that we see coming into the summer months. So.
How about the sports kids? I know coaches usually keep a good eye on them, but
Yes.
you know.
Yeah, the younger the sports group are, the more difficult that becomes to control. When you get the older groups, they typically have sports medicine people with them, things like that. But yeah, if you've got 4-year-olds out playing, whether it's organized sports or non-organized sports, it's really up. Again, it comes back to that adult supervision.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and mixing it in with not just water, but having those electrolytes in there as well. I know that they recommend drinking or mixing at least a little bit of Gatorade in with the water, just every other water or so, I think is what they say.
That's a good idea.
And that's just to keep those electrolytes up because there are no electrolytes in water. So if you start having the cramping and stuff like that, that's when you know you're heading towards a heat-related illness like heat exhaustion. So that's a huge thing.
So if I was a parent and I have children out there, or even myself, what are the signs that I should be kind of paying attention
So
to?
you'd have like red, flushed skin. You can tell that they just look exhausted. That's one of the big things is fatigue, sweating, redness of the skin, quick breathing, even when they're just sitting there. Fast heart rate. Those are all signs and symptoms. And then a heat stroke actually goes beyond that, where you won't even have any of those symptoms. Most of our patients at that point would just be altered. So it just is much worse than that. So the original stages, the beginning stages, is just heat or redness, sweating, fast breathing, and fatigue. So those are all.
It's good to
So
know.
what you need to do to stop that, get some water, bring them inside, get them under AC, whether that be in a car or inside of a house, douse with water, something like that. So
Be aware.
yes.
Again, the key I learned in Arizona is, especially the desert in Arizona, is that you get up in the morning and do things early and siesta in the afternoon.
Yeah.
It gets very hot. I realized after the first few months down here, as we rolled into the next summer, that contractors start work at 4:35 in the morning.
Yeah.
And if you run to a supply store, you probably should go before noon because they may not be open after that.
Right.
But that's a good thing because
Yeah.
you don't want people working in warehouses and areas. So we've learned to adapt, and the employers and employment agencies and the companies have learned to adapt to that weather. But we as citizens don't always think about that.
No, I mean, it's very easy to be out there running around paying bills, doing this, doing that, and hard to kind of even take note of your personal body, let alone the people around you.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Ugh. Let's see. Okay, lodging safely. So this kind of sparked me because, again, we often go here, go there, and you really never think about having those conversations like, what are we going to do if an emergency happens?
Right.
Yeah, and I think this will close out our summer safety segment. And it's kind of the last thing I want to touch on that we talked about because people do leave their houses a lot, or leave their normal environment for the
Yeah.
summer. It may be a nice Airbnb on the lake or on the ocean, or a condo, or it may be a hotel motel or a resort, or it may be just visiting, kids going to grandma and grandpa's or going to see family somewhere. So there's some things you need to know. We hope everybody at home has a fire safety plan. We hope we've pounded that in people's heads through schools and educational opportunities that we want folks to know that my house is a 3-bedroom house, and each bedroom has 2 ways to get out. There's front door, back door, maybe 1 way's a window to safely get out.
Yes.
And we have those planned. You send your kids to grandma's house for 2 weeks in the summer. They will be there last year in the summer, maybe they're at Christmas. And you go stay with them, you don't go stay with them. Make sure they know 2 ways out there.
Yes.
So have grandma and grandpa do an escape plan with them. If you're going to Airbnbs and hotels, almost all of them have some kind of a layout plan. Even the Airbnbs in the house, you have a layout of the house, and most hotels and motels do. Sometimes you get them online ahead of time. If you're taking an airplane trip, a car trip, whatever that is, the person that's not driving, maybe make a game out of making a fire safety plan up.
Yeah.
But have a fire safety plan for when you get there. And then when you get there, especially hotel, motel, one of the simplest things to do, people will tell you this from 9/11 and other hotels and motel fires, is, and I'm anal about it because of what I do, is when I get out of the elevator, I don't care where my room is necessarily. I don't like to walk a long way, but that doesn't make a difference. What I really care about is I get to my room, and then I figure out where the stair exit is.
Yes.
And I count the doors between where I'm at and the stair exit. Why? Because when the building's on fire, you won't be able to see that exit.
Wow.
The newer buildings have exit signs at the floors pointing. That's nice. That was a code that's only been here less than the last decade.
So not a lot of places have it.
Well, now
But
that you say that, I think if you get off of the elevator or wherever, most of them have like the plan.
Yes.
You just have to be aware of it.
Yep.
And they're required
Correct.
to have them
Yes.
at the back door. The back door. There's two things you have to have in the back door of a commercial hotel, motel. Airbnbs don't, and that is they have to have the lodging rate. And what happens if you leave without paying? The laws are right there. And the next one is a small map of your two exits out of the building.
Yeah.
But
I've always kind of taken note of it. I don't know that I've ever actually had that conversation with the kids.
It's very
you know,
Yes.
just assume you're going to be there to take care of them. But
Right.
Count doors. You know, if you know, and the other thing is that if it's smoking bad, it's just like hold your breath and everything else. When you know you only got one more to go, you can probably make it. So if it's really smoking, you're trying to get the building, and you know there's 6 doors to the fire escape or the exit, and you've already counted 5. Maybe
you're
you
close.
just
Like
push
you're
it out
there.
the
Get
back.
going.
Yeah.
So, fire detectors, fire extinguisher, smoke detectors, CO. In Airbnbs, they prominently list whether they have them or not.
Yeah.
I would say if they say they don't have them, I think it's a requirement Airbnb to have a smoke detector.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. I think
CO I think is optional, but it'll list that there. So if you're deciding between A and B and they're pretty similar, maybe that's the decision maker. Hotels and motels. The older hotels, there's not a lot of them, but there's some single stories. Vegas, for example, I have some of the retro ones that were never redone, and they don't have sprinkler systems. They have fire alarms on sprinkler systems.
Yeah.
Motel 6 used to be really big with that, and I think they've all changed. They used to have, they predated it when they built in fire alarms only, so no sprinklers.
Yeah. Something
So,
to really think about when you're choosing a
right.
hotel.
You want to stay somewhere the sprinkler is? Exactly. And then, again, a little awareness when you get in the room. In a commercial building, almost all the detectors have a light on them, so you know it's working.
Right.
Either it'll flash red if you stand there and look at it for 10 seconds, it'll flash red if it's working, or green or whatever, or you have a green light on it. If you don't know or you don't think it's working, or you get into hotel, and this happened before too, and somebody spun the detector off because they wanted to smoke in the room.
Right.
Sometimes that'll set off an alarm, and they'll know about it, sometimes it won't. Is if you get there and doesn't have one, whether it's a house, Airbnb, or whether it's a hotel, let the owner know, and they're obligated to get you that.
Get that fixed. Yeah. Absolutely.
If you go in the house that doesn't have smoke detectors at all, then my recommendation
Don't
is
choose that one.
you would leave.
Right. Right.
But that is, and there are some protections in Airbnbs and VRBOs.
Yeah. Well, even into our own homes. I mean, sometimes we forget, if you have newer ones, the batteries go crazy until you change them.
Right.
Yeah.
But sometimes in the older homes, they just don't work.
Yes.
Right.
Correct.
And remember, the scenario of relatives, and especially older relatives, maybe a nice present with them is some new smoke detectors. There is a 10-year life on those.
Yeah.
So, if you're going to visit relatives, especially elderly relatives, maybe
Check
you
them.
give them smoke detectors.
That's a great idea.
There you go.
If they're older ones, you can take them right off on the bottom and tell you what the age is.
Well, you get so involved again with, visiting and your plan and what you got going on. But yeah, it's a great Christmas gift.
Right.
Definitely. Yeah, if there's one thing that we keep coming back to, it's just like that sense of awareness. It's just having that awareness, and it even takes just 1 second to go home. If you have the kids, talk to them, go over that plan. Even if it's today, go home, or tomorrow, go home. Just at least glaze over it. That way they have somewhat of that sense of awareness to start, heading at least head in the right direction.
Do you guys still go out to the schools and do the stop, drop, and roll?
It's much more incorporated in that.
Yeah.
Because that's, I think about
Yes.
having those conversations with the kids, and I can remember being in school
Still
at maybe
very
3 or
active.
4, right? And you remember a stop, drop, and roll, or
Yes.
if the earthquake's happening, you get under the desk. So it's
Right.
The unfortunate part is if we're not having the conversations, our children don't understand to think about those things.
Right.
But if you have those conversations, you hope and pray that their mind goes to the reaction you've taught them, right?
Well, and you can always start it out too by just asking them what they know, because like you had asked, this information is also given at schools that we do go to schools and pass this information out. So I would just challenge you to just ask them and say, hey, what do you know about this? If this were to happen, what would you do? And just kind of see where they land, and then obviously you kind of know where to go from there. So
that's a great point.
Yeah.
And probably the last thing, fire extinguishers in a hotel, motel, they have to have them. Airbnbs do. Make sure you have one at home. Make sure you have one when you travel in your vehicle. And they're relatively inexpensive, more, and they're pretty lightweight. And they're really easy to check. So if you check into a house and the fire extinguisher hanging on the wall or the hotel, if it's in the green, it's good. If it's not, probably tell somebody. The last thing is smoky materials. Most hotels anywhere don't allow you to smoke in the rooms.
Right.
And if there's penalties outside of that the hotels got to deal with, but the bigger thing is discarded smoky material.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hotels that don't allow smoking. Some still do. The casino hotels typically do.
Yeah.
But they have very specific places where you can smoke or you dispose of burnt materials.
Right.
We had a house fire here last Friday that destroyed the house, and it wasn't smoking materials; it was discarded burnt materials that they thought were out, and they threw them in a trash can.
Yes.
There's a plastic trash can on the back of the house. It's in the summer; it's hot. The air conditioning's running. This trash can's outside. Nobody sees it, and by the time they see it, it's in the roof of the house.
Yeah, it's too late.
So if you are smoking, make sure you're disposing of material correctly.
You don't see this so often anymore, but I know that it used to be a big thing when people would throw their cigarettes out when they're driving.
Yeah.
It's a really big thing down here. Bigger it was in the Midwest because it rained all the time in the Midwest.
I mean, I can't imagine that anybody would now at this day of age, but
you wouldn't think so, but it still happens. It's insane. So
you look at the second most number of runs this time of year, and it's fires alongside the roadway.
The roadway, I was going to say.
Heat exhaustion, heat emergencies, and fires by the roadway.
Yep.
Really?
Where somebody throws a
smoking
cigarette
device.
out.
Yeah.
And it can also be, that brings up a good point. If you're riding your side-by-side, it's a little warm. We take them to the river these days instead of the desert. Side-by-sides, motorcycles, chainsaws, spark-emitting things that you're running them, those are a big factor for certain wildland fires, too. So.
Thank you guys so much for having us today.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, okay. For me? Oh, good Lord.
You take your kids and you're going to take them to Disneyland, let's say. You're going to take them to Six Flags, whatever it is.
Okay.
What kind of conversation do you have with kids when you get inside the park?
Okay, so I am a smother mother. So I had 3 children, and we went to the zoo. And ironically enough, we had cell phones back then, and what I wrote was my cell phone number on their shoulder. My husband at the time thought I was crazy, and I'm thinking, like, if you get lost from me, you just show them mom's number.
Right.
Like,
It's actually a great idea.
Yeah, that is a good idea.
Probably most people are not as crazy as me, and I am absolutely nuts. I know this.
So is it a washable marker, or do they have
Sharpie.
today?
No, I would love to keep it on there today. Your
Oh.
mama loves you. Call her.
That's right.
Yes.
So that's a good point. But if you're going to a large place like an amusement park or someplace, have a discussion with your kids. Pick a meeting point.
Yeah.
If you get separated from me and you can't find me, come back here, or find somebody in a uniform.
Yeah, look for a character.
Two things are a character, something like that. Another point, I didn't realize this until I had the opportunity at Disneyland with the fire group to go through. We had a conference over there to go through Disneyland. So sadly, children are taken in many places, including amusement parks every year.
Especially somewhere like that, right?
So when you take your kids to the park, make sure you know you had a red shirt and green pants on, right? Do you know what color shoes they're wearing that day?
Right.
And do you know why that's important?
Right.
Because most of the time when they abduct children, they don't change their shoes. One of the cameras that Disney has and a lot of things have pictures of their shoes. So when they're walking out, they can see what kind of shoes they got on.
Wow. Never thought about it. I mean, you can prepare for a size of a pant and a
Yep,
shirt, but you're probably not
they might
preparing for a
change their hair,
shoe
they might
size.
cut their hair real quick. And that's completely outside of fire safety. But the safety thing is know what your kids are wearing, and at the age that they can cite your phone number, your address, make sure they know that.
Yeah.
But more importantly, just like you have a meeting place, you have a fire at your house, you go to Disney World, the big fountain in front, find your way back there, or find somebody in uniform, or find a character.
Mm-hmm. Let somebody know. Yeah, somebody. So.
Don't just go wander.
Yeah.
Do not, yeah. Well, again, if you have the conversations, it gives them the reaction. If you don't, who knows what they're going to do.
Absolutely.
Right.
Well, again, thank you guys so much for having us today. Summer is a great time to be aware of your surroundings. Definitely heat, swimming, children, elderly, ourselves, us as adults, don't always make the correct decisions, especially when we've had some alcohol in us. So if nothing else, I hope you were reminded of what to think about when you're going into pretty much any summer situation. Hey, shop local, support local, guys, and have a good day.
Thank you.
See you guys.
See you guys.